This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by Greenworks Consults, a company run by longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Learn more about what Greenworks Consults is up to over at greenworksconsults.com with works spelled W-O-R-X. That's greenworksconsults.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, November 20th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 999 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Tom Angel starts off today's week-ending news day with a rather large headline out of Mexico, where yesterday the Senate voted to pass a bill legalizing the adult use and sale of cannabis. We've been tracking this storyline for well over a year now, as last year the Mexican Supreme Court ordered lawmakers to legalize marijuana, setting up a deadline that's been kicked down the road a couple of times now and that currently stands at December 15th. Under the new legislation just approved by Mexican senators yesterday, adults 18 years of age and up will be able to buy and possess up to 28 grams of marijuana while growing 6 plants at home. The vote came down at 82 senators in favor against just 18 opposed, with 7 abstaining. The legislation is now headed over to Mexico's other main legislative body, the Chamber of Deputies, so we'll keep checking back on this one over the next few weeks. Tom's story on this one is deep and worthy of a click over. As we always do, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Keeping the news baton in the hands of marijuana moment, we have Ben Adlin covering the latest developments for legal cannabis legislation in New Jersey, where voters just passed via ballot measure a legalization citizens initiative that lifts adult use prohibition, but that leaves it up to lawmakers to actually enact a bill with details for how everything works. Lawmakers have been working on this issue for a good while now, though, in New Jersey, so they had proposed legalization legislation ready to go following the vote earlier this month. Ben's story nicely dives into the 2 current proposed bills, S21 and A21, as well as all the politics and background detail necessary to really know what's going on in the Garden State right now. Considering the size of New Jersey and its proximity to states like New York and Pennsylvania, this seems like a good storyline to stay on top of. With a back-to-back story, Ben Adlin has another good piece up detailing the pressures to pass legalization legislation in the state of Rhode Island, where a leading lawmaker just said he expects his state to pass adult use early next year. State Senator Ryan Pearson recently told the TV station WPRI that he was quote-unquote optimistic that he and his fellow lawmakers would begin to move to pass adult use legislation in January. Rhode Island is facing a budget deficit next year of more than $114 million, and legal cannabis sales are projected to potentially bring in $20 million in taxes and fees. So the political environment is certainly primed for progressive reform. There's also been a lot of general support among state lawmakers for legalization, including from Governor Gina Raimondo. This is absolutely another story I'd open up to read in full today. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, a company run by longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Jason and his team of business process experts will help you quantify and track all the important metrics that goes into how much money you have left over each and every month. And then they will help you get better at all the things you do, which means that you make more money. There are profits to be found in being more efficient, and you can find them with Jason and his team at Greenworks Consults. Why would you not do everything that you could to maximize all your profit channels? Smart businesses look to save every dollar they can through better operations. Untap that magical power today and open up greenworksconsults.com with works spelled W-O-R-X and start your journey towards more profits. That's greenworksconsults.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Jeff Smith over Marijuana Business Daily wrote up a good story looking at some of the states that are likely to pass adult use legalization next year, with potential markets adding up to around $6 billion in annual sales. If you are involved at all in the actual business of legal cannabis, you absolutely need to keep an eye on the expansion of the legal marketplace. So ignore this story at your own professional peril. Lots of good stories to read in full today. Toss this one on the pile. Deborah Borchardt over Green Market Report starts off a string of 4 stories with companies reporting their latest Q3 quarterly results. Today's run starts off with Cresco Labs, which reported pulling in a record $153 million in revenue for its third quarter ending September 30th. That's up 63% sequentially and around 420% annually. That mountain of revenue rolled out to an adjusted EBITDA of $46.4 million, up 182% over the previous quarter. Solid news all around there. California-based marijuana company Harbourside continues the solid news train with its own Q3 results showing gross revenues of $19.5 million, sitting atop a profitable adjusted EBITDA of $4.4 million, up just under 700% sequentially. New Cannabis Ventures has all the other details and numbers here if you want them. Up next with its Q3 numbers is Air Strategies, a vertically integrated MSO which pulled in quarterly revenues of $45.5 million and a healthy adjusted EBITDA of $19.3 million. The company reports having a strong cash position with $23 million on hand as of the end of September, and has plans to expand into Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Arizona, with 3 new permits just granted to run adult use dispensaries in Boston. Maybe a good company to have on your general industry radar if you don't already. Again, New Cannabis Ventures has more here. Tilt Holdings is our last Q3 reporting company on the day as it realized revenues of $40.4 million and an adjusted EBITDA of positive $2.8 million. I have to say, it's kind of nice to have so many financial reports showing actual profit. A government task force in North Carolina that formed at the behest of Governor Roy Cooper is reporting back that the state should decriminalize adult use marijuana. The task force will formally relay its findings over to Governor Cooper within the month. The call to remove criminal penalties associated with possessing small amounts of marijuana was also backed by the state's attorney general, but unfortunately, the North Carolina state legislature is in the hands of Republicans, so don't expect much of any kind of actual reform anytime soon. We end the day on a good note with Dave Howard over at Leafly covering a recent vote by the City Council of Madison, Wisconsin to decriminalize the use and possession of marijuana in both private and public spaces. The new rules means that adults of age, in this case 18 years and up, in Madison are allowed to have and use marijuana in any space where they have the owner's permission. Of course, the state of Wisconsin has not actually passed legal cannabis yet, and university students are still barred from having cannabis on campus, but even so, this is a nice little baby step to wrap up the day's news. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again Tuesday with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.